Welcome to the Daily Drop on Pro Ball Daily. I'm Mike.
And I'm Tara. And folks, do we have a daily drop for you today? From shocking slumps in London to a team that just can't lose at home, and a squad playing like two completely different teams in the span of weeks, we're diving deep into the wildest sports stories happening right now.
Wild is an understatement, Tara. We've got to start in the EPL, right? Because what is going on with Tottenham? A 6-game losing streak? This isn't just a bump in the road. This is a full-blown crisis for a team with Champions League aspirations.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we just saw them draw with Brighton 2-2, which ordinarily might not look terrible on paper. But when you're already in a 6-game skid, a draw feels like another loss. It's like they're playing with lead in their boots right now. They can't close out games, they're not getting the results they need against teams they should be beating or at least drawing effectively against.
And it's not like their power index has completely collapsed. They're still often in those conversations for the top tier. But a run like this, it just decimates morale. You have to wonder what's happening behind closed doors. Is it coaching, player fatigue, or just a brutal run of bad luck and even worse finishing?
I think it's a mix. 6 games is too long for just bad luck. It screams systemic issues. And look at the top of the EPL Core Index. Arsenal is sitting pretty at 80.1 points. Brighton and Hove Albion are surging at 76.6. Then Manchester City, Sunderland, Everton rounding out the top 5. Tottenham isn't even sniffing that list right now. They're watching these teams pull away.
Sunderland in the top 5 is interesting. Definitely a testament to their consistency this season. But back to the drama, we also saw Manchester United get a tight 1-0 win over Chelsea, and Leeds put a hurting on Wolves 3-0. Bournemouth even pulled off an upset against Newcastle 2-1. So a lot of action, but nothing as dramatic as Spurs' freefall.
Agreed. And speaking of free falls, Burnley is also on a 5-game losing streak. Not quite Tottenham's level of ambition, but still, 5 straight is tough to swallow.
From the struggling to the utterly dominant, let's swing over to La Liga. Barcelona, Tara, are just a machine.
A pure, unadulterated, goal-scoring, game-winning machine. A 6-game winning streak. Their power index is 79.5 points. They are 20 points clear of Getafe, who are second at 59.9. This isn't dominance. This is a coronation waiting to happen.
It really is. Getafe, Mallorca, Alaves, Villarreal, solid teams, absolutely. But the gap between Barcelona and the rest of the league is just staggering. It highlights just how consistently elite they've been. Their stat of the day, that 6-game winning streak, is almost just a footnote to their entire season of excellence.
It's insane. And on the flip side of that coin, Sevilla is on a 5-game losing streak in La Liga. It seems like the streaks are contagious across the pond. You've got the top dogs running away with it, and then you have these established clubs just floundering.
What does that tell you about the league's competitive balance this season? Is it just Barcelona hitting an historic peak, or is the middle tier of La Liga just weaker than we thought?
I think Barcelona is just that good, honestly. When you have a team firing on all cylinders like this, with the talent they possess, and they're executing week in and week out, it's very difficult for anyone to keep up. It also means there are fewer points to go around for the mid-table teams, making those losing streaks even more impactful.
Fair point. Shifting gears to the ice, the NHL has some interesting power dynamics. Vegas Golden Knights are number 1 with 75.4 points, followed by the Utah Mammoth, who've been consistently impressive this season at 70.4. Then the Hurricanes, Canadiens, and Senators round out the top 5.
Carolina just shut out Ottawa 2-0 in what was a solid defensive battle. But the score that really jumped out at me was Minnesota absolutely shellacking Dallas 6-1. That's a statement win for the Wild, who sometimes fly under the radar.
It absolutely is. And the Flyers pulling off a 3-2 win over Pittsburgh. Always a good day for Philadelphia fans when they beat the Penguins, especially in a tight one. But the real head-scratcher in the NHL for me is the Boston Bruins.
Oh, the Bruins. You have to talk about the Bruins. It's like they hired Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as their collective team personality for January and March.
Exactly. In January, they posted a jaw-dropping 91% win rate, blasting past their season baseline by 30.4%. They looked unstoppable, like a true Stanley Cup contender. Then March rolls around, and they drop to 54%, a 10.4% decrease from their baseline. What on earth happened in those 2 months?
It's an unprecedented swing. You don't see that kind of dramatic performance shift in a team that's supposedly elite. Was it injuries, a brutal schedule, or did they just get complacent after such a hot start to the new year? It completely changes their outlook. You can't trust that kind of volatility in the playoffs.
I mean, if they play like January, they're winning the cup. If they play like March, they're a first-round exit, maybe even miss the playoffs depending on how tight the standings are. It's a huge question mark. And meanwhile, the Buffalo Sabres went 75% in March, an 8.3% increase from their baseline. It makes you wonder if there was some kind of regional shift in performance.
Well, that's what good teams do. They figure it out. The Sabres seem to have hit their stride. But the Bruins? I'd be very, very nervous if I were a Bruins fan.
Let's transition to the hardwood. The NBA Power Index has the New York Knicks leading with 75.2 points, Denver Nuggets right behind at 73.8. Then you have the Spurs, Thunder, and Hornets making up the rest of the top 5.
Next at number 1, Mike, that's a take I can get behind. They've been so consistent this year. Denver, as expected, is right there too. But the Spurs, Thunder, Hornets in the top 5, that's definitely an exciting mix of rising talent and established contenders.
Totally. And the recent scores include Cleveland beating Toronto 126-113, Denver getting a solid 116-105 win over Minnesota, Lakers handling Houston 107-109, and the Knicks taking care of Atlanta 113-102. All pretty standard for top teams. But the Hawks, this is another team with a wild, wild swing in performance, much like the Bruins.
Atlanta Hawks. February 2026, 55%, a 12.1% decrease from their baseline. Then March 2026, an absolutely exploding 87%, which is 20% above their season baseline. What's in the water in Atlanta? Or Boston, for that matter?
I'm telling you, it's a full moon effect in sports this year. How do you go from struggling so badly to suddenly being a dominant force in a single month? That kind of inconsistency, especially for a playoff-bound team, is concerning. Is it a health thing where they got everyone back and healthy in March? Is it a strategic change that finally clicked?
If I were a coach, I'd be trying to bottle whatever they did in March and make them drink it every single game. But it also means you can't truly gauge their ceiling or their floor. Which version of the Hawks are you going to get on any given night? That's a huge problem in a playoff series. And then you have the Brooklyn Nets, who had a brutal February, only shooting 17%, down 11.1% from their baseline. It just shows how quickly fortunes can change in the NBA.
Agreed. Over in MLS, we've got Real Salt Lake surprisingly at the top of the power index with 80.5 points. New England Revolution right there at 77.6. Charlotte FC, LAFC, and Atlanta United FC are in the top 5.
Real Salt Lake has been flying under the radar, but clearly putting in the work. New England has always been a strong contender. But the story that caught my eye in MLS isn't just the powerhouses, it's the sheer number of losing streaks.
You're talking about Atlanta United, LA Galaxy, and CF Montreal all on 4-game losing streaks? That's brutal. It's tough to gain momentum in this league, and these streaks are just burying them.
Exactly. And then you have the Chicago Fire and FC Cincinnati combining for 6 goals in a thrilling 3-3 draw. That's the kind of back-and-forth action that MLS is known for, high-scoring and exciting. Miami beat Colorado 3-2, but Nashville shutting out Atlanta 2-0 just adds to Atlanta's woes. And LA Galaxy drew Dallas 2-2, which means their 4-game skid includes a draw. Not a win, but at least not a loss.
It just goes to show how competitive the league is. Even the teams at the top of the power index like Atlanta United are not immune to a rough patch. That parity makes for some exciting matchups.
It certainly does. Let's move to the Diamond, MLB. The Dodgers are leading the power index at 66.5 points, closely followed by the Atlanta Braves at 65.3, then the Cardinals, Tigers, and Red Sox.
A strong start to the season for the usual suspects and some surprising contenders like the Tigers. We saw some interesting scores. Arizona beat Toronto 6-2, which is a good upset for the Diamondbacks. The A's eked out a 7-6 win against the White Sox, and Cleveland beat Baltimore 4-2, with Gavin Williams posting a 77 MLB rating in a dominant outing against the Orioles.
Williams was absolutely lights out. That's the kind of performance that puts him on the map. But speaking of the Diamondbacks, another team with a dramatic swing. In March, they were at 42%, a 13.9% drop from their baseline. Then in April, they shot up to 71%, a 14.3% increase.
It's the curse or blessing of the calendar, I swear. March was tough. April, they're clicking. It shows how much momentum can shift, especially early in the MLB season. They could be a sleeper if they maintain this April form. The Athletics also had a good March, up 7.5% from their baseline to 63%. Good for those teams to find their rhythm.
Absolutely. And finally, let's talk some college hoops, NCAA. Michigan Wolverines are at the top of the power index with 80.3 points. George Mason, Arizona, Duke, and Massachusetts round out a very strong top 5.
These are perennial powerhouses and some surprising contenders like George Mason and UMass. But the stat of the day in NCAA, Kara, is just perfect.
You're talking about the Yukon Huskies being a perfect 100% at home, outscoring opponents by 25 points per game? That's not just dominant, Mike. That's terrifying. In March Madness, home court advantage is almost non-existent. But imagine carrying that kind of swagger, that kind of invincibility into a neutral court tournament.
That's a team built for a deep tournament run. They know how to win. They know how to dismantle opponents. That 25-point differential isn't just winning. It's demoralizing the competition. Any team facing UConn needs to bring their A-plus game and then some.
And St. John's Red Storm also went 100% in March, up 11.1% from their baseline. They're peaking at the right time. But a trend worth noting for both Duke and Michigan, two top 5 teams, is that their games go under their average total 40% of the time. Duke's average total is 145 points, Michigan's 155.